Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today for this first part of the webinar series on positioning services for schools. My name is Doris Suchet, and I'm the School Development Manager here at ISC Research. For those of you who may not be familiar with ISC Research, we are the recognized source of data and intelligence on the world's international schools market. We monitor market trends and research topics of interest. My role is in part to develop relationships with international schools and support them in their development. We are welcoming 2022 with a webinar series designed to share with you some ways in which you can use data and intelligence to support your school in confirming your market position and to inform your strategy. This webinar of our series today, this one focuses on recruitment and continuous professional development. The following two parts of the series, next Tuesday and the Tuesday after, same time, so reserve your time slot in the diary if you like what you're hearing, will cover marketing and admission strategy and school development plans. I'd like to keep this session as interactive as possible, so please do ask any questions you might have. You can post them in the chat or in the questions and answers section. And obviously, well, if we have time at the end, we should have about 10 minutes at the end of the 45-minute presentation. I'll do my best to answer them as well. So let's get started. Here we are. As recruitment is center stage at this time of the year, today's session is all about sharing the latest market intelligence on this topic. To help you support your HR strategy. So today I'd like to give you an overview of key outcomes of our latest research into recruitment and CPD in international schools, discuss when data is useful to inform your recruitment strategy, and hone in on the importance of refining your school's positioning to successfully recruit and retain your staff. Let's start with providing some context and relevance to ISC and our research within the industry. We have been gathering data and intelligence on the international schools market for over 25 years now. We track the market closely for shifts, challenges, good practice, new developments, and emerging opportunities. We process over 300,000 data points every year and spend 4,500 hours on verification to ensure that we and you can trust our data. Since 1994, we have guided schools with their growth plans, informed investors on new school development, helped universities to engage with international schools, and advised education partners that are supporting the market. ISC Research supplies we supply live data portals, in-depth market intelligence reports, and expertise on the market, in addition to specialist areas of practice within international schools. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well, I think, to ensure you are up to date on all our news and resources as they become available. Our specialist reports focus on international school practices and needs. They are particularly helpful to identify emerging trends within key areas of international school life. Our latest exclusive specialist report, published last month, highlights key shifts in recruitment and CPD in international schools. So I'd like to share with you now some outcomes of the research we have conducted with international schools, recruiters, and CPD providers, which are all included in this report, along with some expert recommendations. So, our field research team have seen notable shifts in recruitment practice in the last few years when talking to international school leaders. These have been confirmed in our recent research. Most of these shifts pertain to teacher recruitment. However, understanding what is driving the teacher recruitment market and how it can impact the financial decisions you have to make can be valuable. So here are just a few of the teacher recruitment trends we're seeing at the moment. We are seeing extended teacher contracts to ensure staff retention and to avoid recruitment challenges related to continuing COVID border restrictions. There are also higher levels of in-country teacher churn, and some schools have been offering incentives to teachers at competitor schools in order to avoid incoming border challenges, i.e. visas. This is something a number of schools have also said they foresee continuing beyond COVID. There is also a notable drive towards the hiring of local qualified teachers. Not only is this in response to challenges caused by COVID-19, but more international schools are valuing and promoting the benefits local teachers can bring in terms of culture and language skills and understanding. One of the challenges of this trend can be finding local teachers with the correct pedagogy for your school and curriculum. Accordingly, we are seeing a small but increasing number of schools and school groups offering teacher training or supporting new teacher qualifications in-house. And more schools are addressing a DEIJ, so diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice in their teacher and leadership selection. Many associations and accreditors, such as ECIS, have some more useful webinars and professional development to help ensure diversity, equity, inclusion is embedded in your school and its operations. Our research also shows that international schools are increasingly considering attributes such as proficiency in using technology to support learning and high emotional intelligence. In fact, according to Recruiter's survey, the international school teacher profile seems to be evolving to include new desirable attributes. International schools are starting to use innovative practices to recruit from a more diverse talent pool and create new recruitment pathways. And some emphasize professional learning to encourage staff retention. Finally, 87.5% of recruitment agencies surveyed noticed that international schools began the recruitment process earlier in the school year in 2020-2021. Interestingly, also in terms of senior leadership skills, 67% of recruitment agencies surveyed said that DEIJ strategy skills are sought after for international school leadership positions as well. So what about the most popular CPD formats in international schools? Well, 66% of international schools said their plan to develop the skills of the current teaching staff in the use of education technology to support teaching and learning over the next 2 years. Our research emphasizes the fact that international schools should support lifelong learning habits of their teachers, just as they do for students. To support lifelong learning habits, CPD is being adapted to better match staff needs and support their well-being. Fulfilled teachers with opportunities to develop their skills are more likely to keep working with the international schools that support them. Our research also shows that hybrid CPD is likely to be the most popular format choice in the future, combining opportunities for face-to-face interaction along with flexible access to content that's delivered via virtual learning environments. Schools need to realize that this requires some skill development by staff to optimize this approach. Our report also includes expert advice for schools on this to consider. So, if as a school leader or a member of the senior management team, you are in a situation where you think some of this information is useful, then how can you incorporate the lessons learned into your school strategy and plans? We believe we know that data is the key. All schools use data to some extent to track student learning progress. But when do you currently use data to inform your school development planning? We have been posing this question to various heads and leadership teams recently, and from the results we're gaining, we are able to see that data is most often used to substantiate board meetings and to guide capital expenditure decisions, as well as to inform key strategies for school development. Staffing and recruitment strategies were amongst the top answers. You already have access to your internal data to inform your recruitment and CPD strategy, but ISC Research can provide the external data that you need to better understand your position within the market. So what can help your forward planning and decision making be more effective is accurate and current data on your competitive landscape. At ISC Research, we work closely with international schools, school groups, associations, and education partners to provide the data and intelligence they need to make evidence-based business decisions. This is available in a range of reports, data sets, and services, including benchmarking and positioning services, which can all inform the school's marketing strategy, investment planning, and business development. We also share lots of free resources, including specialist sector reports and regular white papers on the industry. Now, what we see is that schools often seek our help because they have a genuine and often urgent need to validate the anecdotal knowledge with proof. So, for instance, in my conversations with schools and school groups, I'm often told that there is a new school head who's just started at the school, or a new school has just opened down the road, or that staff recruitment is going slowly, or the student numbers are dropping. And what the SLT or the board need to see is the full picture, but painted with numbers and facts, a data-driven evidential assessment of the situation, if you like. So in response to this need, we have come up with a few positioning tools that are data-driven and highly factual, and therefore incredibly useful for schools in making key strategic decisions effectively. So when is data useful in your recruitment? Well, staffing is an increasing challenge for all international schools, especially with the global pandemic upsetting the standard staff recruitment cycles in many schools, and staff mobility being affected globally. It is also the biggest burden on the school's expenditure, so getting it right and ensuring that it is as efficient and cost-effective as possible is essential. And this can only be achieved using trustworthy data. It is also important to point out here the difference between local and global competition. In other words, to differentiate between your competitors for enrollment and your competitors for recruitment. A recent client of ours, a director at a school in Dubai, approached us, in fact, because he needed data that is local, regional, and global. He acknowledged that as a school, they had failed to recognize that their competitors, when it came to teacher recruitment, were other British schools, but not only in Dubai, but elsewhere around the world too. So their competitors from a student perspective are very different to their competitors from a staff perspective. And this is quite the norm within the international schools market nowadays, we find. And schools often don't differentiate between the two. So at ISC, we have found ourselves helping and consulting an increasing number of schools who are asking to compare themselves against other similar schools around the world rather than just locally. So you may want to compare yourselves to another school on the other side of the world, for example, and reliable data can make this comparison possible, and the findings enormously helpful in recruitment planning. What data might help you with your staffing and recruitment strategy beyond just salaries offered in other schools? What would you like to know about other schools that you compete with that would help inform your own planning? If you have genuine answer to these questions that you're thinking of right now, please post it in the chat and I can address it as well. But we know from experience and from gathering research from school heads that many international schools tend to want to know the teacher salaries, of course, that other schools are offering. But don't look so much in the other ways they can identify unique offerings, such as in the benefits packages offered, in the professional development support the teachers are getting, in the well-being provision that a school has developed for its staff, or the teacher to student ratios. All of these may well influence new recruits. So for example, knowing your staff to student ratios at other schools can help you optimize your own class sizes, adapt your own class ratios, or use this as an important message to both admissions and recruitment teams. Or if you take staff demographics, for example, it's easy for a school to get drawn into a mindset that we have to hire from Britain, for example, when other schools around you may increasingly be hiring from other countries. There is also value in collecting internal data from your current staff. You may want to find out and analyze data for future planning around questions such as what attracted your staff to your school, why your staff selected your school over others, and what matters to them and helps their retention. What are the retention rates in your school, in fact? So the results from both internal and external research can undoubtedly contribute to informing your recruitment strategy. Let's look now at the short-term school improvements. Quick wins are essential, essentially during these challenging times, and for staffing decisions as well. Finding current gaps in the market that can be optimized are vital, and data tracking and benchmarking can help you identify these opportunities. So data to collect internally that would be useful here could include contract lengths, staff retention rate, staff turnover rate, and the benefits that you offer. And then you can leverage this against the external data we can provide, such as average teacher salaries, benefit packages, including details of pensions, bonuses, tuition for dependents, flights home, accommodation, medical insurance, etc. So short-term planning can be done in-house using internal data, but what's more difficult is making long-term decisions. And often this is something you can't do on your own, and you might need to start looking for an external data provider. One of the best uses of data for long-term planning is benchmarking. And a good comparative data study, a benchmarking exercise, if you like, should do three things for you. It should give you a complete and comprehensive picture that is always data-driven and factual. It should be unique to you by allowing your school and the schools that matter to you be part of the data mining process. So unique, your own unique cohort of competitors, if you like. And it should provide a fresh perspective on your school. This is really important. And its place within its market. In other words, it should help you arrive at the answers to questions around accurate market evaluation, which is essential to recognize market demand and emerging trends, best use of capital, expenditure and investment, and answer key questions such as, will you be moving your school into a highly competitive territory or opening up new opportunities that don't currently exist within your market? So in my role, when I speak to schools, what I love to hear the most about the bespoke comparative reports we produce for schools is when they tell me that not just about the anecdotal evidence that the report has now, intelligence that the report has now factually corroborated, but the findings the school leaders didn't even know they didn't know. So once senior leaders know the data they have is reliable, they tend to become the most avid data geeks, hunting for every bit of insight and nuance that the data provides and helping them make many more decisions that were ever anticipated. At ISC, we call this identifying the unknown unknowns, the stories that data can tell you when effective analysis, benchmarks, and correlations are made. So how do you identify the unknown unknowns? Our advice is not to start with the data you think you need, but begin by asking some bigger questions and answering them candidly and from various perspectives, that of the school leaders, staff, students, parents, the wider community. Questions such as what has recently changed within your school? What has recently changed beyond the school that is directly impacting the school? The answers to these questions will be the springboard for any good data provider to give you the data you never knew you needed and now can't live without. Also, schools are increasingly working to identify new income streams. Data can help identify opportunities to develop your school that differentiate it from competitors. As I said earlier, the need for a benchmarking report is often a change in circumstance, often a sudden change that affects a school. So I call it my volatility checklist when I talk to schools, and it can be anything from the board retiring, or there is a new head now in the school, as I said, or a new role such as Director of Advancement has been introduced to the school, or a new school has opened down the road, or the city itself is developing and growing. We're seeing this in Cairo, for example. So the change creates the demand to look at new ways to generate income. And comparative competitor study can help you identify the niche opportunities that your school may have. I'll be talking more about this in the second part of this webinar next week. We will focus on admission strategy and new income streams then. So if this is an area of interest, then please join me then. So here is a little visual, two visuals of this comparative competitor study, which you can commission from us for a fee, and which many schools find hugely beneficial. And this is what it looks like, produced to order. Obviously, there are more pages than two visuals, but produced to order, a benchmarking report is essential for an international school to know how it compares to other international schools, as I said, locally, regionally, or even globally. It is a data-based report, which allows you to compare your facilities, student enrollments, fees, staff salaries and benefits, and a plethora of other points of comparison against a bespoke cohort of schools of your choice. And what the report will do essentially is help inform your decision-making and the strategy planning around your admissions, recruitment, standards, and development within your school with current, reliable, and unbiased data on your competitive landscape. Now, whilst our benchmarking report presents data in at-a-glance comparison tables for a clear understanding of where your school stands in relation to other international schools, the positioning report provides further qualitative analysis within your competitive landscape. So things such as a detailed competitor analysis featuring local growth and development plans and future trends to consider, an assessment of demand, comparing relevant data points, including tuition fees, curricula, examinations, enrollments, student age ranges, admission fees, and highlighting potential barriers to entry. An audit of teaching staff profiles and requirements, and a comparative analysis of other differentiating factors such as school facilities, SEN provision, or online reviews. This particular report, positioning report we call it, can prove to be essential to your strategy, as it will help inform it and adjust your admissions procedures and tuition fees, perhaps improve your recruitment strategy, and enhance your market understanding by sharing independent data analysis with your school board or governing body. Again, I'll be talking more about marketing trends and for improved admission strategy next week, and I'll flesh out this particular report then. But if you think that either of these reports I have just mentioned is the kind of service that would help you and your school, particularly in these challenging times, please just get in touch with me. I'll share my details at the end of the presentation soon, and I'll be happy to guide you through the process. Now, there's also Insight. Let's not forget about ISC Insight. You can now gather and get access to all the data and intelligence you need for your recruitment strategy, including a generic benchmarking report, and indeed our recruitment and CPD specialist report from our new product for schools. It's a live data portal called ISC Insight. It's an interactive data and intelligence portal that can help you with your market positioning, your brand recognition and market trends by giving you access to a package of live data, as I said, certain data points for your country plus 2 others, so 3 target countries, a benchmarking report on of schools in your country, and a sub-regional intelligence report to help you develop your market knowledge within your region. You will also have access to our exclusive specialist reports with ISC Insight. Again, this includes our latest recruitment and CPD and international schools report. So if you'd like to discuss your positioning needs with me further and find out more about this live platform, again, just get in touch. We also provide, as I said, access to free and valuable resources sharing good practice within the international schools community. These include the ISC Insight Lite subscription. So this is a free access to the live portal with limited amount of data, but the free publications are included in the Lite package. So just to give you examples, I don't know if you can see some of them there. Yes, you can. ISC Research publishes free resources, as I said, including white papers and a selection of free specialist reports that are accessible via ISC Insight or our website. And the most recent ones, and probably the most popular ones in the pandemic year so far, have been how parents select international schools, our report on well-being in international schools, our report on the growing demand for international schools within a mid-market fee point. This one is one of the most requested reports this year for us. And the pathway for international schools to higher education report is also very popular. You're also encouraged to subscribe to International School Leader magazine, a free publication promoting good practice across the international schools community that we publish. So this is it. That's it from me for today. I will be talking, as I said, more about the admission strategies and income streams in the following 2 weeks. So let's have a look if we have any questions. I will keep this slide on for a little bit because it's got my details. Yes, you've got my email address there if you would like to ask them. Let's have a look. Is this report available on your website to download? Currently, I don't believe this report is for free. So the Recruitment and CPD report costs £395, I believe. It comes free with the paid subscription ISC Insight. Or if you book a consultation with me, I do believe I can offer it to you for free as well. So by all means, all book calls with me, please, in the next week or so. And we can share a good practice from it. If I can say so myself, it is a really comprehensive and really good report. And I've discussed it with quite a number of schools in the last couple of months. And it's really, I find it really, it's proper 60 pages of really in-depth research on what is quite a volatile situation at the moment around recruitment in international schools. So I found it really informative, and the feedback I'm getting from schools that it really is that. So as I said, £395, I think, for this one. A lot of good work went into this report. And this is why we charge a nominal fee, but we do charge for this one. Or as I said, if you book a call with me, I do believe we can provide it for free. Questions I have here: faculty satisfaction rate. I think, Marie-Helene, I think you are referring to sort of a survey almost, a staff survey. We don't do staff surveys. We speak to school heads and senior leadership team, and we gather intelligence and data on market trends this way. So we As a service, we say no to staff surveys or parental surveys. I get asked for as well. However, I do know of 2 providers that I am happy to recommend and pass on, and have done successfully with a number of schools, where we make an introduction to, as I said, 2 companies I can think of as a sort of secondary service to what we would provide with the data on the competitive landscape around you. So if you'd like to know more, just ping me a message or an email, and I can let you know who these 2 companies are. It would be interesting. Nita asks what benefits are offered, and what wellbeing practices are adopted by schools. Again, just book a call with me for more, and I can tell you a little bit about the reports and the intelligence that we gather. As a standard in our benchmarking report, there is a set of data that we collect on all the benefits. So that's, as I mentioned in the webinar here, the basic information that you for sure will get is pensions, bonuses, salaries, any benefits for dependents of flight accommodation. Again, if we in a one-to-one consultation, I can show you what the report looks like. I can show you the extent of data we provide within it. When it comes to well-being practices, I think the free report that we published during the pandemic year on well-being practices is probably the one you would find most informative. And, again, talking to schools, and I talk to, schools day in, day out, the information that I even myself personally have gathered sort of anecdotally, I would say that the 3 things that have come out from the pandemic is technology and education. That's shot up massively on the agenda for schools. The second thing would be the well-being, and that means well-being of everyone in the school, not just the students, staff, parents even. And parents will make decisions about leaving a child in school or moving to another school if the technology isn't there, the well-being provision isn't there. And the last thing is recruitment and the provisions that you have and the benefits you provide for your staff. What are the 3 countries where teachers are seeking jobs? It's difficult to answer because it depends on which country you're asking from. So I don't think there is such a thing as the top 3 countries where teachers are seeking jobs necessarily, because it would depend, again, if are you talking a teacher who's looking for an attractive job, looking from Britain, for example, moving abroad, or is it a local teacher looking to move to another country? What I would suggest, again, from what I observe, what I read, and what I gather from our research, and just talking to schools, that it has become, in a much shorter period of time, a much more global affair. So teachers will look, schools will look to recruit not just from Britain and not just native speakers. They will look to recruit teachers from other countries. They will look to recruit more locally, because teachers from abroad, our idea of the native teacher, if you like, they may not be looking at the countries that they were looking at to work in even 2 or 3 years ago. So it's not just that the pandemic has stopped the traveling so much, it's also that lives and people's priorities have changed. So suddenly, I think we're in a situation where a lot of schools ask me for a benchmarking report that is global, not local or regional even. I have schools in Turkey asking me for what they can find in Central America in terms of recruitment. How do they compare to schools in Central America to know whether they've got an attractive proposition for the teachers, because we now recruit from anywhere really in the world. I hope that answers your question, Josephine, but let me know. Which one? To what extent and how do you see recruitment affairs evolving further? That's a good one. I think they will always be there as a tool. Absolutely, there's more about it in the report. In fact, it's a traditional tool. A lot of schools will be still looking at as one of the first tools that they will grab, if you like, to in the recruitment processes. I think what's shifted again is the fact that schools are now looking for are recruiting constantly. This isn't something that would start at certain time of the year. So even things like arranging fairs and arranging your activities around recruitment that perhaps you would leave to the beginning of the year or third quarter of the year or whatever your pattern is at the moment, it's an ongoing affair, simply because it's so unpredictable what's happening. And I think people will be looking at other ways to attract staff and find them other than fairs would be my answer. Staff demographic data in your report. Do you sorry, this appeared. Do you record the gender and family status of staff? Like number of single and married with children. I believe so. I'm not sure. I would have to check that. But yes, if it's benefits, if it's in benefits packages as to, I think that the single and married, I think there is a distinction there. I'm pretty certain there is a distinction. Sylvie, yes, if you want to email me, I'm happy to check that and verify that with the data team, so I'm not telling lies. Live, I'm going to stop sharing now. I don't know if anybody, I can see them now in the chat as well. How much time have we got? We've got a few more minutes if anybody wants to ask a question live or follow up on anything I said. I think if you think this is something that you want to discuss further, every consultation really I find is individual. Every situation of every school I find is unique. I've always said to my colleagues in ISC, you know, it's my favorite part of the job really is finding out about schools. I am yet to speak to a school that I don't think cares about their students or staff, no matter what size or orientation or where they are in the world. We all want to do a good job by our students, and even things like recruitment that may be something that we're trying to fix, or we're trying to predict what's going on. Schools are struggling with recruitment at the moment. I know that. I do get asked for a benchmarking report, with the sort of HR strategy need being one of the most common ones at the moment. But again, going back to what I said about the post-pandemic findings and recruitment being one of the key things that's come out that schools need to address, it all feeds back to, you know, if you have happy staff, you'll have happy students, and, you know, happy students mean that parents are not thinking of moving them to another school. It's all sort of feeds to, you know, you're thinking you're fixing one strategy and part of it, but actually, you know, a healthy HR strategy will feed and enhance a healthy admission strategy, and so on and so on. And that's again an added bonus of a benchmarking, of an extensive full benchmarking report, that, you know, it's a report that you can pass around your SLT. You know, it could be that your HR manager, key person, is requesting this for their need, but equally they can just pass it around to the marketing team and an admissions team, because it will have data on that unique cohort of school that will help you with the HR strategy, with the admission strategy, and additional income streams all in one report. So again, it's a good investment, and most schools probably don't buy this report every year unless you're a huge you know, a largish school, I would suggest, in a hugely competitive market, perhaps then you need to buy it quite regularly. But most schools invest in this exercise, I would suggest, every 2 to 3 years. And it just gives you, as I said, the unknown unknowns is probably the cherry on top of the cake. And this is what I hear most of the schools is, you know, when they've had the report and received it and read it and go, yes, I knew this, I had a feeling that this is the case. But what I didn't know is this. And that's great. That's something we know because we've got the volume of data on all the schools everywhere. You know, you may know your school very well, you may know a few competitive schools around you, but we will simply know more, and we can put it in a nice factual data-driven picture for you. I don't know if there are any more questions. That's it, I think. So I'll end here. I don't know if I've stopped sharing. I think I have. So what are innovative practices to retain staff that have been taken? Nita, I think, again, all of this is in the report. So I would just suggest that they are very creative and very innovative at the moment. As we know, the trend is that the salaries for staff are going down, so the schools need to be even more creative. I've heard of schools offering PhDs to teachers. You know, we all know about offering postgraduate courses or MAs even, but now I am hearing PhD provision for staff, for teachers, to retain them. So I'd suggest it's very creative, prototype, anything and everything. But yes, if you would like to read the report in full, the easiest way to do it is literally book a call with me. It doesn't have to be a long chat. I can tell you a little bit about the report. I can answer your specific questions then as well. If you like what you're hearing, I would suggest join me again, literally this time, same time, 8 a.m. English time, British time. Next Tuesday, we'll talk about admissions a bit more and income streams. And I think the following week, it's more for large organizations, school groups or schools that are part of school groups, and how we can help you in this sort of broader sense, if you like. But by all means, join that one too. It really does, I think, help to have a conversation around. I still speak to a lot of schools who kind of say, I know you guys, I know what you do, but it takes a while perhaps to find the application of what we can do within your own individual schools. And what I have found in over a year now with the company is that we genuinely do help a great number of schools be better and be smarter and be more cost effective, I think, in the forward planning. So join me next week. Thank you for today. Please do get in touch. I'm sure we will follow up with an email from me anyway if you've taken part. So thank you for giving me your morning, evening, or wherever you are, what time it is, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.